The morning sun cast long shadows across the military training facility as Commander Jake Morrison reviewed the day's roster. At 38, he had seen more combat zones than most soldiers see in a lifetime. His weathered hands bore the scars of countless missions, and his steel-gray eyes held the weight of decisions that had saved lives and cost others. Today was different, though. Today, he would be evaluating a mixed group of military personnel for an elite joint task force operation. Morrison had built his reputation on being uncompromising. He didn't care about gender, race, or background. What mattered was capability, mental toughness, and the ability to follow orders under extreme pressure. The Navy SEAL community was small and tight-knit, and Morrison's name was spoken with reverence among those who served in special operations. As the candidates began assembling in the courtyard, Morrison noticed the usual mix of eager faces and nervous energy. There were Army Rangers, Marine Force recon operatives, Air Force pararescue specialists, and a few Navy personnel. Among them stood a woman who immediately caught his attention, not because she was female in a predominantly male environment, but because of the way she carried herself. Sarah Chen stood 5 feet 6 inches tall with a lean, athletic build that spoke of years of rigorous training. Her black hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her dark eyes scanned the environment with the calculated awareness of someone who had learned to assess threats instinctively. She wore the standard military fatigues, but there was something about her posture that set her apart from the others. Morrison had seen her file earlier that morning. 29 years old, born in San Francisco to immigrant parents who had fled Vietnam in the aftermath of the war. She had enlisted in the Army at 18, worked her way up through the ranks, and had been deployed to Afghanistan 3 times. Her record was impressive, but Morrison knew that records on paper didn't always translate to performance in the field. The first exercise was a basic physical assessment. Morrison watched as the candidates moved through obstacle courses, endurance runs, and strength tests. Chen moved with fluid efficiency, never wasting energy, never pushing harder than necessary to complete each task. She wasn't the fastest or the strongest, but she was consistent and smart about conserving her energy. During the rope climbing exercise, Morrison noticed several male candidates struggling with the technique, using brute force instead of proper form. Chen, meanwhile, scaled the rope with textbook precision, using her legs to grip and her arms to pull in perfect coordination. When she reached the top, she didn't celebrate or show off. She simply descended in a controlled manner and moved to the next station. The afternoon brought tactical exercises designed to test decision-making under pressure. Morrison divided the candidates into small teams and presented them with scenarios that had no clear right answers. He wanted to see how they handled ambiguity, how they communicated under stress, and whether they could think beyond conventional military doctrine. Chen's team was assigned a hostage rescue scenario. They had limited information, outdated intelligence, and a ticking clock. Morrison watched from a concealed position as the team leader, a Marine captain, began issuing orders. Chen listened intently, asked clarifying questions, and then offered suggestions that showed she was thinking 3 steps ahead. When the team leader decided to breach through the front entrance, Chen quietly suggested an alternative approach that would reduce civilian casualties. She didn't challenge his authority directly, but presented her idea as an additional option. Morrison noted how she balanced respect for the chain of command with tactical innovation. The exercise went sideways quickly. The team leader's plan resulted in a simulated hostage casualty, and the whole scenario began to unravel. Morrison watched as frustration and panic began to set in among some team members. Chen, however, remained calm. She began gathering information, reassessing the situation, and quietly organizing the team's response to the changed circumstances. Without formally taking command, she began coordinating with the other team members to salvage the mission. Her voice remained steady and professional as she issued suggestions that sounded more like requests than orders. Morrison recognized the skill it took to lead without appearing to undermine the designated team leader. As the sun began to set, Morrison called the candidates together for individual interviews. These conversations were crucial for understanding not just what someone could do physically, but who they were mentally and emotionally. Special operations demanded people who could function independently, make life and death decisions in isolation, and carry the psychological weight of their actions. When Chen entered the interview room, she moved with the same controlled confidence Morrison had observed throughout the day. She sat straight in her chair, hands folded, eyes focused but not aggressive. Morrison had conducted thousands of these interviews over his career, and he had learned to read the subtle signs that revealed character. He began with standard questions about her military background, her motivations for volunteering for special operations, and her understanding of what the job would require. Chen's answers were thoughtful and honest. She didn't try to impress him with bravado or false confidence. Instead, she spoke about the responsibility she felt to serve her country and her belief that she could contribute meaningfully to high-stakes missions. Morrison pressed deeper, asking about her experiences in Afghanistan, how she had handled loss of fellow soldiers, and what she had learned about herself under extreme stress. Chen's responses revealed someone who had processed her experiences thoughtfully, who understood the psychological costs of military service, and who had developed healthy coping mechanisms. As the interview continued, Morrison found himself respecting the young soldier's maturity and self-awareness. She didn't claim to be fearless or invulnerable. Instead, she acknowledged her limitations while demonstrating confidence in her abilities. She spoke about the importance of teamwork, the value of diverse perspectives in problem-solving, and her commitment to continuous learning and improvement. The final question Morrison always asked was simple but revealing. Why should I select you for this team? Many candidates use this opportunity to boast about their achievements or to disparage their competition. Chen took a different approach. She spoke about what she could contribute to the team's overall effectiveness, how her background and experiences had prepared her for this role, and her commitment to the mission above personal glory. As Chen left the interview room, Morrison made notes in her file. Tomorrow would bring more intensive evaluations, but his initial impression was strongly positive. This was exactly the kind of soldier he wanted on his team, someone who combined technical competence with emotional intelligence and genuine dedication to service. The third day of selection brought the most psychologically demanding challenges yet. Morrison had designed these exercises based on real-world scenarios he had encountered during his years in special operations. Today would test not just physical and tactical skills, but moral courage and decision-making ability under the most extreme circumstances. The morning began with a scenario that Morrison knew would separate those with genuine leadership potential from those who simply followed orders. The candidates were presented with a simulated prisoner interrogation exercise where they had to extract critical intelligence while adhering to legal and ethical guidelines. The scenario was designed to create intense pressure to cross moral boundaries, testing whether candidates would maintain their integrity when lives supposedly hung in the balance. Chen was assigned the role of interrogator, facing a role player who portrayed a captured enemy operative with information about an imminent attack on civilian targets. The actor was skilled at creating psychological pressure, alternating between cooperation and defiance in ways designed to frustrate and manipulate the interrogator into using inappropriate techniques. Morrison observed from behind one-way glass as Chen approached the challenge methodically. She began by establishing rapport with the subject, using professional interrogation techniques she had learned during her military training. When the subject became hostile and uncooperative, Chen didn't respond with aggression or intimidation. Instead, she maintained her composure and continued to apply approved psychological pressure techniques. The scenario included planted suggestions from supervisory role players, encouraging more aggressive approaches. These actors, portraying senior officers, pressured Chen to use techniques that would violate military regulations and international law. The pressure was intense and realistic, designed to test whether candidates would compromise their values when authority figures demanded it. Chen's response revealed the strength of her character. She respectfully but firmly declined to use inappropriate interrogation methods, even when told that lives were at stake and that she would be held responsible for any attack that occurred. She continued to work within legal boundaries while maximizing the effectiveness of her questioning through skillful psychological techniques. Morrison was particularly impressed when Chen requested to speak privately with the supervising role player to express her concerns about the suggested techniques. This action showed moral courage and professional integrity that went beyond simple rule following. She was willing to challenge authority when she believed it was directing her to act unethically, even under extreme pressure. The afternoon brought what Morrison considered the most revealing exercise of the entire selection process. Candidates were placed in scenarios where they had to make impossible choices with no clearly right answers. These moral and ethical dilemmas were designed to reveal character and decision-making processes under extreme stress. Chen's scenario involved a simulated combat situation where she commanded a small team trapped behind enemy lines with wounded personnel and limited ammunition. Role players portrayed civilians who claimed to have information about safe extraction routes, but intelligence suggested that enemy forces were using civilian informants to locate and ambush military personnel. The dilemma was deliberately impossible to solve perfectly. Any decision Chen made would involve significant risks to her team, to civilians, or to the broader mission. Morrison wanted to see how she would approach decision-making when there were no good options, and when any choice could result in casualties. Chen's approach impressed Morrison with its systematic thoroughness. She gathered all available information, consulted with her team members, and carefully considered the potential consequences of each possible course of action. Rather than making an impulsive decision based on emotion or fear, she applied analytical thinking to an emotionally charged situation. When she finally made her decision, Chen clearly articulated her reasoning to her team. She explained which factors she had weighed most heavily and why she believed her chosen course offered the best chance of mission success with acceptable risk levels. Even when team members questioned her judgment, she listened to their concerns and modified her plan where appropriate while maintaining overall command authority. The scenario continued to evolve, presenting Chen with additional complications that forced her to adapt her plans repeatedly. Morrison observed how she balanced the need for decisive action with the requirement to remain flexible as new information became available. Her ability to make tough decisions while remaining open to changing circumstances demonstrated the kind of leadership ability that special operations demanded. During one particularly intense moment in the exercise, Chen was forced to choose between attempting to rescue a wounded civilian who might be a trap and maintaining her team's concealed position to avoid detection. The decision had to be made quickly with limited information, and there were compelling arguments for either choice. Chen made her decision and acted on it, but Morrison was more interested in how she handled the aftermath. When the exercise revealed that her choice had negative consequences she hadn't anticipated, Chen took full responsibility for the outcome. She didn't make excuses or blame inadequate intelligence. Instead, she analyzed what she could have done differently and how she would approach similar situations in the future. The evening brought individual psychological evaluations conducted by military psychologists. These sessions were designed to identify any potential mental health issues or personality traits that might interfere with performance in high-stress special operations environments. The evaluations also assessed candidates' motivation, emotional stability, and ability to function effectively in small team environments. Chen approached the psychological evaluation with the same professionalism she had shown throughout the physical and tactical assessments. She answered questions honestly about her experiences, her motivation for pursuing special operations, and her methods for managing stress and trauma. The psychologist noted her self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and healthy coping mechanisms. During discussions about combat experiences and loss of fellow soldiers, Chen demonstrated her ability to process traumatic events constructively. She neither minimized the emotional impact of her experiences nor allowed those experiences to overwhelm her judgment. Instead, she showed how she had learned from difficult situations and used those lessons to become a more effective soldier. The psychological evaluation also included personality assessments designed to identify how candidates might function in team environments. Chen's results showed someone who could lead when necessary, but who was equally comfortable in supportive roles. She demonstrated respect for authority while maintaining the independence of thought necessary for special operations work. One particularly revealing portion of the evaluation involved hypothetical scenarios designed to test moral reasoning and ethical decision-making. Chen consistently demonstrated sound judgment and strong moral foundations, while showing flexibility in her approach to complex problems. She understood that special operations sometimes required operating in moral gray areas, but she maintained clear boundaries regarding unethical behavior. As the day concluded, Morrison reviewed his notes and observations from the 3 days of evaluation. Chen had consistently performed at the highest levels across all assessed areas. More importantly, she had demonstrated the character traits and values that Morrison knew were essential for success in special operations: integrity, moral courage, analytical thinking, leadership ability, and genuine commitment to team welfare. The evaluation process was designed to be comprehensive and demanding, revealing not just what candidates could do but who they were as people. Morrison had seen many highly skilled soldiers fail in special operations because they lacked the character traits necessary for success in high-stress, morally complex environments. Chen had proven herself to be exactly the kind of person Morrison wanted on his team. Her combination of technical competence, moral integrity, and emotional maturity made her an ideal candidate for the challenges they would face in real-world operations. Tomorrow would bring the final phase of evaluation, but Morrison was already confident in his assessment of her capabilities and character. The third day of selection brought the most psychologically demanding challenges yet. Morrison had designed these exercises based on real-world scenarios he had encountered during his years in special operations. Today would test not just physical and tactical skills, but moral courage and decision-making ability under the most extreme circumstances. The morning began with a scenario that Morrison knew would separate those with genuine leadership potential from those who simply followed orders. The candidates were presented with a simulated prisoner interrogation exercise where they had to extract critical intelligence while adhering to legal and ethical guidelines. The scenario was designed to create intense pressure to cross moral boundaries, testing whether candidates would maintain their integrity when lives supposedly hung in the balance. Chen was assigned the role of interrogator, facing a role player who portrayed a captured enemy operative with information about an imminent attack on civilian targets. The actor was skilled at creating psychological pressure, alternating between cooperation and defiance in ways designed to frustrate and manipulate the interrogator into using inappropriate techniques. Morrison observed from behind one-way glass as Chen approached the challenge methodically. She began by establishing rapport with the subject, using professional interrogation techniques she had learned during her military training. When the subject became hostile and uncooperative, Chen didn't respond with aggression or intimidation. Instead, she maintained her composure and continued to apply approved psychological pressure techniques. The scenario included planted suggestions from supervisory role players, encouraging more aggressive approaches. These actors, portraying senior officers, pressured Chen to use techniques that would violate military regulations and international law. The pressure was intense and realistic, designed to test whether candidates would compromise their values when authority figures demanded it. Chen's response revealed the strength of her character. She respectfully but firmly declined to use inappropriate interrogation methods, even when told that lives were at stake and that she would be held responsible for any attack that occurred. She continued to work within legal boundaries while maximizing the effectiveness of her questioning through skillful psychological techniques. Morrison was particularly impressed when Chen requested to speak privately with the supervising role player to express her concerns about the suggested techniques. This action showed moral courage and professional integrity that went beyond simple rule following. She was willing to challenge authority when she believed it was directing her to act unethically, even under extreme pressure. The afternoon brought what Morrison considered the most revealing exercise of the entire selection process. Candidates were placed in scenarios where they had to make impossible choices with no clearly right answers. These moral and ethical dilemmas were designed to reveal character and decision-making processes under extreme stress. Chen's scenario involved a simulated combat situation where she commanded a small team trapped behind enemy lines with wounded personnel and limited ammunition. Role players portrayed civilians who claimed to have information about safe extraction routes, but intelligence suggested that enemy forces were using civilian informants to locate and ambush military personnel. The dilemma was deliberately impossible to solve perfectly. Any decision Chen made would involve significant risks to her team, to civilians, or to the broader mission. Morrison wanted to see how she would approach decision-making when there were no good options, and when any choice could result in casualties. Chen's approach impressed Morrison with its systematic thoroughness. She gathered all available information, consulted with her team members, and carefully considered the potential consequences of each possible course of action. Rather than making an impulsive decision based on emotion or fear, she applied analytical thinking to an emotionally charged situation. When she finally made her decision, Chen clearly articulated her reasoning to her team. She explained which factors she had weighed most heavily and why she believed her chosen course offered the best chance of mission success with acceptable risk levels. Even when team members questioned her judgment, she listened to their concerns and modified her plan where appropriate while maintaining overall command authority. The scenario continued to evolve, presenting Chen with additional complications that forced her to adapt her plans repeatedly. Morrison observed how she balanced the need for decisive action with the requirement to remain flexible as new information became available. Her ability to make tough decisions while remaining open to changing circumstances demonstrated the kind of leadership ability that special operations demanded. During one particularly intense moment in the exercise, Chen was forced to choose between attempting to rescue a wounded civilian who might be a trap and maintaining her team's concealed position to avoid detection. The decision had to be made quickly with limited information, and there were compelling arguments for either choice. Chen made her decision and acted on it, but Morrison was more interested in how she handled the aftermath. When the exercise revealed that her choice had negative consequences she hadn't anticipated, Chen took full responsibility for the outcome. She didn't make excuses or blame inadequate intelligence. Instead, she analyzed what she could have done differently and how she would approach similar situations in the future. The evening brought individual psychological evaluations conducted by military psychologists. These sessions were designed to identify any potential mental health issues or personality traits that might interfere with performance in high-stress special operations environments. The evaluations also assessed candidates' motivation, emotional stability, and ability to function effectively in small team environments. Chen approached the psychological evaluation with the same professionalism she had shown throughout the physical and tactical assessments. She answered questions honestly about her experiences, her motivation for pursuing special operations, and her methods for managing stress and trauma. The psychologist noted her self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and healthy coping mechanisms. During discussions about combat experiences and loss of fellow soldiers, Chen demonstrated her ability to process traumatic events constructively. She neither minimized the emotional impact of her experiences nor allowed those experiences to overwhelm her judgment. Instead, she showed how she had learned from difficult situations and used those lessons to become a more effective soldier. The psychological evaluation also included personality assessments designed to identify how candidates might function in team environments. Chen's results showed someone who could lead when necessary, but who was equally comfortable in supportive roles. She demonstrated respect for authority while maintaining the independence of thought necessary for special operations work. One particularly revealing portion of the evaluation involved hypothetical scenarios designed to test moral reasoning and ethical decision-making. Chen consistently demonstrated sound judgment and strong moral foundations, while showing flexibility in her approach to complex problems. She understood that special operations sometimes required operating in moral gray areas, but she maintained clear boundaries regarding unethical behavior. As the day concluded, Morrison reviewed his notes and observations from the 3 days of evaluation. Chen had consistently performed at the highest levels across all assessed areas. More importantly, she had demonstrated the character traits and values that Morrison knew were essential for success in special operations: integrity, moral courage, analytical thinking, leadership ability, and genuine commitment to team welfare. The evaluation process was designed to be comprehensive and demanding, revealing not just what candidates could do but who they were as people. Morrison had seen many highly skilled soldiers fail in special operations because they lacked the character traits necessary for success in high-stress, morally complex environments. Chen had proven herself to be exactly the kind of person Morrison wanted on his team. Her combination of technical competence, moral integrity, and emotional maturity made her an ideal candidate for the challenges they would face in real-world operations. Tomorrow would bring the final phase of evaluation, but Morrison was already confident in his assessment of her capabilities and character. The final day of evaluation arrived with an intensity that Morrison could feel in the air. The remaining candidates had survived 3 days of grueling physical, tactical, and psychological testing, but today would determine who would earn a place on his elite team. Morrison had designed the final challenges to simulate the exact conditions and pressures they would face in actual special operations missions. The day began with a comprehensive mission planning exercise that would test strategic thinking, attention to detail, and ability to coordinate complex operations. Each candidate was given command of a simulated team and tasked with planning a hostage rescue mission in an urban environment with multiple variables and limited intelligence. Chen received her briefing packet and immediately began the systematic analysis that Morrison had observed throughout the evaluation process. The scenario involved rescuing American diplomats held in a foreign embassy, with hostile forces controlling the surrounding area and civilian populations at risk. The mission required careful coordination between multiple assault teams, support elements, and extraction assets. Morrison watched as Chen spread maps and intelligence reports across her planning table and began building a comprehensive picture of the operational environment. She identified key terrain features, analyzed enemy capabilities and likely response patterns, and considered multiple contingency plans for various scenarios that might develop during the mission. What impressed Morrison most was Chen's attention to second and third order effects. While other candidates focused primarily on the immediate tactical problem of reaching and securing the hostages, Chen considered the broader implications of their actions. She analyzed how their approach might affect civilian casualties, diplomatic relations, and long-term strategic objectives in the region. Her final mission plan reflected the thoroughness of her analysis. Chen had developed a primary approach with multiple backup plans, detailed contingency procedures for various complications, and clear command and control structures for coordinating the different elements of the operation. She had also identified critical decision points where the mission commander might need to abort or modify the operation based on changing circumstances. During the mission briefing presentation, Chen demonstrated her ability to communicate complex plans clearly and effectively. She used visual aids to help team members understand their roles and responsibilities, anticipated questions about timing and coordination, and showed how individual actions contributed to overall mission success. Her presentation was professional, confident, and thorough without being overwhelming. The afternoon brought the culminating exercise of the entire evaluation process, a live-fire training scenario that would test all the skills and attributes Morrison had been assessing over the previous 4 days. This exercise would be as close to real combat conditions as safely possible, with live ammunition, explosive effects, and role players portraying hostile forces and civilian populations. Chen was assigned to lead a 4-person team in a mission to locate and extract a high-value target from a compound defended by enemy forces. The scenario included multiple buildings, underground tunnels, civilian bystanders, and time pressure created by intelligence suggesting additional enemy reinforcements were en route. Morrison positioned himself where he could observe the entire operation while remaining out of the team's way. He wanted to see how Chen would apply everything she had learned and demonstrated over the previous days when facing the stress and complexity of a realistic combat simulation. The mission began with Chen's team conducting reconnaissance of the target compound from a concealed position several hundred meters away. Morrison watched as she methodically analyzed the layout, identified entry and exit points, and observed enemy patrol patterns. She took time to ensure her team understood the plan thoroughly before initiating movement toward the objective. Chen's approach to the compound demonstrated the tactical competence Morrison had observed throughout the evaluation. She used available cover effectively, coordinated her team's movement to maintain mutual support, and adapted to changing conditions as new information became available. When they encountered an unexpected enemy position that wasn't included in their initial intelligence, Chen quickly modified her plan without losing momentum or exposing her team to unnecessary risk. The building-clearing phase of the mission tested Chen's ability to make rapid decisions under extreme pressure. Each room potentially contained enemies, hostages, or civilians, and incorrect identification could result in mission failure or simulated casualties. Chen moved through the building systematically, using proper tactical procedures while maintaining awareness of her team's position and the overall mission timeline. Morrison was particularly impressed by an incident that occurred midway through the building clearing process. Chen's team encountered a room containing both the target they were seeking and several civilian role players. The scenario was designed to test decision-making under pressure, as enemy forces were approaching and time was running short, but extracting the target safely required careful handling of the civilian situation. Chen's response demonstrated the leadership qualities Morrison had been evaluating throughout the selection process. She quickly assessed the situation, assigned specific roles to each team member, and coordinated the safe extraction of both the target and the civilians. Her decisions were rapid but thoughtful, prioritizing human life while accomplishing the mission objectives. The extraction phase tested Chen's ability to adapt to unexpected complications. As her team moved toward the predetermined extraction point with their target and the rescued civilians, they encountered enemy forces that had repositioned to block their primary escape route. Chen had to quickly analyze the new tactical situation and choose between several imperfect alternatives. Morrison watched as Chen gathered information about enemy positions, assessed her team's ammunition and equipment status, and evaluated alternative extraction routes. Under intense time pressure and simulated enemy fire, she made the decision to use a secondary escape route that would require additional movement through dangerous terrain but offered better tactical advantages. The decision proved correct when Chen's team successfully reached the alternative extraction point without casualties and within the mission time limits. Morrison noted that her success wasn't just due to good luck but resulted from thorough mission planning that had identified multiple contingency options and careful tactical execution under pressure. As the exercise concluded and the team moved through post-mission procedures, Morrison observed how Chen handled the transition from combat operations to administrative tasks. She ensured her team members were accounted for and medically cleared, secured sensitive equipment and intelligence materials, and provided a clear and accurate after-action report to mission supervisors. The final element of the evaluation process was an individual debrief with Morrison himself. These conversations provided an opportunity for candidates to reflect on their performance, discuss lessons learned, and demonstrate their ability to analyze their own strengths and weaknesses objectively. Morrison had found these sessions to be particularly revealing of character and professional maturity. Chen entered the debrief room with the same composed professionalism she had displayed throughout the evaluation process. She had clearly spent time reflecting on her performance and was prepared to discuss both her successes and areas where she could improve. Morrison appreciated her balanced self-assessment and her focus on learning from the experience regardless of the selection outcome. During their conversation, Chen discussed specific decisions she had made during the various exercises and explained her reasoning process. She acknowledged mistakes she had made and described how she would approach similar situations differently in the future. Her willingness to accept responsibility for errors while maintaining confidence in her overall capabilities impressed Morrison with its maturity. When Morrison asked about her motivation for pursuing special operations, Chen's answer revealed the depth of her commitment to service. She spoke about the responsibility she felt to use her skills and training to protect others, the importance of the mission Special Operations Forces performed, and her desire to be part of a team dedicated to excellence and service to their country. As the debrief concluded, Morrison felt confident in his assessment of Chen's suitability for his team. She had demonstrated exceptional performance across all evaluation criteria, while maintaining the professional demeanor and personal integrity he demanded from his personnel. The final decision would be announced the following morning, but Morrison had already made up his mind about her selection. 6 months after the selection process, Chen had proven herself to be everything Morrison had hoped for and more. She had seamlessly integrated into the Special Operations team and had participated in several successful missions that validated Morrison's confidence in her abilities. Her tactical competence, leadership skills, and professional dedication had earned the respect of every team member, including some who had initially been skeptical about having a woman on the team. Morrison reflected on Chen's performance during their most recent mission, a complex operation in Eastern Europe that had required infiltrating a terrorist cell planning attacks on civilian targets. Chen had served as the team's intelligence specialist, using her language skills and cultural knowledge to gather critical information that had ultimately prevented the attacks and led to the capture of key terrorist leaders. The mission had been particularly challenging because it required operating in an urban environment with significant civilian presence. The team had to maintain cover identities while conducting surveillance and gathering intelligence, all while avoiding detection by hostile forces who were actively searching for foreign operatives. Chen's ability to blend into the local population and her skill at reading social dynamics had been crucial to the mission's success. Morrison had watched Chen evolve during her time with the team, developing from an exceptional individual soldier into a mature special operations professional who could be trusted with the most sensitive and dangerous assignments. Her judgment had proven consistently sound, her technical skills continued to improve, and her commitment to the team's success had never wavered. The current mission briefing room was filled with tension as Morrison prepared his team for their next assignment. Intelligence reports indicated that a high-value target had been located in a remote mountain compound in a region known for its hostile terrain and unpredictable weather. The target was believed to be planning a major terrorist attack, and time was running short to prevent a catastrophe. Chen studied the satellite imagery and intelligence reports with the same methodical attention to detail Morrison had observed during her selection process. She asked probing questions about the intelligence sources, the reliability of the information, and the potential for changes in enemy capabilities since the reports were generated. Her questions demonstrated the analytical thinking that made her such a valuable team member. The mission would require a small team to infiltrate the compound, locate the target, and either capture him alive or eliminate him if capture wasn't possible. The operation would be conducted in challenging terrain, with limited support available and no possibility for immediate extraction if things went wrong. Success would depend on careful planning, flawless execution, and the ability to adapt to unexpected complications. Morrison assigned Chen a critical role in the mission planning process, leveraging her expertise in intelligence analysis and her proven ability to think strategically about complex operations. She would be responsible for analyzing enemy capabilities, developing contingency plans for various scenarios, and serving as the team's primary intelligence coordinator during the operation. Chen approached the mission planning with characteristic thoroughness. She analyzed historical weather patterns for the target area, studied the architectural layout of the compound, and developed detailed profiles of likely enemy personnel based on intelligence reports and local cultural factors. Her analysis identified several potential vulnerabilities in the enemy's security posture while also highlighting significant challenges the team would face. The infiltration phase of the mission would require the team to traverse several miles of difficult mountain terrain while carrying heavy equipment and maintaining operational security. Chen had identified the optimal route based on terrain analysis, weather forecasts, and enemy patrol patterns. Her route planning minimized exposure to detection while ensuring the team could reach their objective within the required timeline. Morrison was particularly impressed by Chen's analysis of the compound's security measures. She had identified patterns in guard rotations, vulnerable points in the perimeter defenses, and potential escape routes for the target if he became aware of their presence. Her intelligence preparation had significantly improved their chances of mission success while reducing risks to team safety. The night before the mission launch, Morrison conducted final individual briefings with each team member to ensure everyone understood their roles and responsibilities. When Chen entered his office for her briefing, Morrison could see the focused concentration that always preceded her participation in dangerous operations. She was mentally preparing herself for the challenges ahead while maintaining the calm professionalism that made her such an effective operator. Their conversation covered the specific intelligence requirements for the mission, contingency procedures if the team encountered unexpected complications, and communication protocols for coordinating with supporting elements. Chen's questions were sharp and relevant, demonstrating her thorough understanding of the mission and her preparation for various scenarios that might develop. Morrison found himself reflecting on how much Chen had grown during her time with the team. The woman sitting across from him had evolved from an exceptional candidate into one of the most capable special operations personnel he had ever commanded. Her combination of intelligence, courage, and dedication made her indispensable to their mission's success. The mission launched before dawn, with the team moving through mountainous terrain under cover of darkness. Morrison maintained communication with the team through encrypted radio channels, monitoring their progress as they navigated toward the target compound. Chen's voice came through clearly as she provided regular intelligence updates and confirmed their adherence to the planned timeline. The team's movement through the mountains proceeded according to plan, with Chen's route selection proving accurate in avoiding enemy patrols while maintaining progress toward the objective. Morrison could hear the confidence in her voice as she coordinated with other team members and provided real-time intelligence analysis based on their observations of the target area. The team reached their final approach position overlooking the target compound. Chen's intelligence preparation proved its value. The enemy security measures matched her predictions, confirming the accuracy of her analysis and the viability of their planned approach. Morrison felt the satisfaction of knowing that his confidence in her abilities had been well placed. The assault phase of the mission unfolded with precision that reflected months of training and preparation. Chen coordinated the team's movement through the compound's defenses, provided real-time intelligence updates about enemy positions and activities, and adapted their plans as new information became available. Her performance under pressure validated everything Morrison had seen in her during the selection process and subsequent training. The mission reached its climax when the team located the high-value target in a heavily fortified room within the compound's main building. Chen's intelligence analysis had identified this location as the most likely position for the target, and her preparation had enabled the team to reach it efficiently while avoiding most of the compound's defensive measures. Morrison listened through his headset as Chen coordinated the final phase of the operation, ensuring that the target was captured alive, while minimizing risks to both team members and any civilians who might be present in the compound. Her voice remained calm and professional even during the most intense moments of the operation, demonstrating the leadership qualities Morrison had recognized from their first meeting. The successful completion of the mission represented a significant victory against terrorist threats and validated the team's training, preparation, and execution. Morrison felt particular satisfaction in Chen's performance, knowing that her contributions had been essential to their success, and that his decision to select her for the team had been thoroughly vindicated by her consistent excellence. 2 years had passed since Chen joined Morrison's elite team, and she had become one of his most trusted operatives. Her reputation within the special operations community had grown steadily, based on her exceptional performance in increasingly challenging missions. Morrison had watched her develop from a promising candidate into a seasoned professional who could be relied upon to handle the most sensitive and dangerous assignments. The team had just returned from a particularly demanding mission in Southeast Asia that had tested every aspect of their training and capabilities. Chen had served as the team leader for this operation, marking another milestone in her professional development. Morrison had deliberately assigned her this leadership role to evaluate her readiness for greater responsibilities and to prepare her for eventual promotion within the special operations hierarchy. The mission had involved infiltrating a criminal organization that was trafficking weapons to terrorist groups throughout the region. Chen had spent weeks developing cover identities, building relationships with criminal contacts, and gathering intelligence about the organization's structure and operations. The work had been dangerous and psychologically demanding, requiring her to maintain false personas while extracting critical information without arousing suspicion. Morrison had monitored the operation from a distance, providing support and guidance when needed, but allowing Chen to exercise independent command authority. Her performance had been exemplary, demonstrating the strategic thinking and leadership abilities that Morrison had recognized during her initial selection process. She had successfully penetrated the criminal organization, identified key personnel and operations, and coordinated with local law enforcement to dismantle the trafficking network. The success of the mission had significant implications beyond the immediate tactical objectives. The intelligence Chen had gathered had led to the disruption of several planned terrorist attacks and had provided valuable insights into the broader network of criminal organizations supporting terrorist activities in the region. Her work had literally saved lives and had advanced strategic objectives that extended far beyond their immediate mission parameters. As Morrison reviewed Chen's performance during the post-mission debrief, He reflected on the remarkable transformation he had witnessed over the past 2 years. The confident but relatively inexperienced soldier, who had impressed him during selection, had evolved into a mature special operations leader capable of handling the most complex and sensitive assignments. Her growth had been consistent and impressive, validating his initial assessment of her potential. Chen's technical skills had continued to develop through constant training and real-world application. She had become proficient in multiple specialized areas, including advanced surveillance techniques, sophisticated communication systems, and complex infiltration procedures. Her language abilities had expanded to include several additional languages that enhanced her value for operations in different regions around the world. More importantly, Chen had developed the emotional and psychological resilience necessary for long-term success in special operations. Morrison had watched her handle the stress of dangerous missions, process the trauma of combat experiences, and maintain her moral compass while operating in morally complex environments. Her ability to balance the demands of the job with personal well-being demonstrated the maturity that was essential for sustained high-level performance. The current briefing concerned a mission that would test Chen's abilities in new ways. Intelligence agencies had identified a terrorist cell operating in North Africa that was planning coordinated attacks on multiple targets across Europe. The cell was led by a highly intelligent and experienced operative who had successfully evaded capture for several years while orchestrating increasingly sophisticated attacks. Morrison had been tasked with assembling a team to locate and neutralize this threat, and he had specifically requested Chen for a critical role in the operation. The mission would require infiltrating the terrorist cell's inner circle, gathering intelligence about their plans and capabilities, and coordinating with international partners to prevent the planned attacks. The operation was expected to take several months and would place Chen in extreme danger for an extended period. Chen approached the mission briefing with the same methodical professionalism Morrison had observed throughout her career. She asked detailed questions about the intelligence sources, analyzed the risks and opportunities associated with different operational approaches, and began developing preliminary plans for establishing cover identities and infiltration strategies. Her questions demonstrated both her tactical expertise and her understanding of the broader strategic implications of the mission. Morrison was particularly impressed by Chen's analysis of the cultural and social dynamics she would need to navigate during the infiltration process. She had studied the region's history, political situation, and social structures to understand how she could most effectively blend into the local population while gaining access to terrorist networks. Her preparation was thorough and demonstrated the intellectual rigor that had made her such an effective intelligence operative. The conversation turned to the personal risks Chen would face during the extended undercover operation. Morrison had a responsibility to ensure that his personnel understood the dangers they would encounter and were mentally prepared for the challenges ahead. Chen's response revealed the maturity and self-awareness that had characterized her approach throughout her special operations career. Chen acknowledged that the mission would be physically and psychologically demanding, requiring her to maintain false identities while operating in hostile territory with limited support. She understood that she would be isolated from her team for extended periods and would have to make critical decisions independently while managing the constant stress of potential discovery. Her willingness to accept these challenges while maintaining realistic expectations about the difficulties ahead impressed Morrison with its balance of confidence and humility. The discussion also covered Chen's long-term career goals and how this mission would contribute to her professional development. Morrison had been mentoring her toward eventual command responsibilities, and successful completion of this challenging assignment would position her for promotion to senior leadership roles within the special operations community. Chen expressed her commitment to continued service and her desire to eventually train and lead the next generation of special operations personnel. Morrison found himself reflecting on the broader implications of Chen's success for the special operations community. Her exceptional performance had helped demonstrate that women could excel in the most demanding military roles when given the opportunity and proper support. Her achievements had opened doors for other qualified women and had contributed to important changes in military culture and policies. The conversation concluded with Morrison expressing his confidence in Chen's abilities and his appreciation for her dedicated service. He had commanded many exceptional soldiers during his career, but few had impressed him as consistently as Chen had throughout their time working together. Her combination of technical competence, moral integrity, and personal courage made her exactly the kind of leader the special operations community needed. As Chen prepared to leave for her next assignment, Morrison felt the mixed emotions that always accompanied sending valued personnel into dangerous situations. He was proud of her accomplishments and confident in her abilities, but he also understood the very real risks she would face during the coming months. The nature of special operations meant that every mission carried the possibility of loss, and Morrison had learned to balance his professional responsibilities with genuine concern for the safety and well-being of his team members. The preparation phase for Chen's upcoming mission would require several weeks of intensive training and planning. She would need to develop detailed cover stories, master new technical skills, and coordinate with intelligence partners in multiple countries. Morrison would oversee this preparation process, ensuring that Chen had everything she needed for mission success while minimizing the risks she would face during the operation. The critical moment came during the mission debrief 3 months after Chen had successfully completed her most dangerous assignment yet. She had spent those months deep undercover, infiltrating the terrorist network that had been planning coordinated attacks across Europe. The operation had been a complete success, preventing multiple casualties and dismantling a significant threat to international security. Morrison had watched Chen's performance throughout the mission with a mixture of professional pride and personal concern. The intelligence she had gathered had been invaluable, her tactical execution had been flawless, and her ability to maintain her cover under extreme psychological pressure had been remarkable. The mission had confirmed everything Morrison had believed about her capabilities from the moment he first met her during selection. As they sat in his office conducting the formal after-action review, Morrison found himself reflecting on Chen's remarkable journey from candidate to elite operative. The woman across from him had proven herself in every conceivable way, demonstrating not just technical competence but the moral courage, emotional resilience, and leadership ability that defined the very best special operations personnel. Chen had completed her mission report with characteristic thoroughness, documenting not just the tactical successes, but the lessons learned and recommendations for future operations. Her analysis of the terrorist network's structure and capabilities would inform counter-terrorism efforts for years to come, and her insights into their recruitment and operational methods had already led to changes in how intelligence agencies approached similar threats. Morrison had been preparing for this conversation for weeks, knowing that he needed to address Chen's future with the team and her growing reputation within the broader special operations community. Other units were beginning to express interest in her capabilities, and Morrison knew that she would eventually receive opportunities for advancement that might take her away from his team. The conversation began with Morrison's formal recognition of Chen's exceptional performance during the recent mission. He detailed how her intelligence gathering had prevented the planned attacks, how her analysis had contributed to the broader understanding of terrorist operations, and how her professional conduct had enhanced the reputation of their entire unit. His words were sincere and reflected genuine appreciation for her contributions. Chen accepted the recognition with the same humble professionalism she had always displayed. She credited her success to the training and support she had received from Morrison and the team, emphasizing the collaborative nature of their operations and the importance of the relationships she had built with her colleagues. Her response demonstrated the humility and team-focused attitude that had made her such an effective team member. Morrison then shifted the conversation to Chen's future career prospects. He had received inquiries from senior commanders about her availability for other assignments, including opportunities for promotion and increased responsibilities. Some of these opportunities would involve commanding her own special operations units, while others focused on training and developing the next generation of elite personnel. The discussion revealed Chen's thoughtful approach to her career development. She expressed her commitment to continued service and her desire to take on greater responsibilities, but she also emphasized her loyalty to Morrison and the team that had given her so many opportunities for growth and achievement. Her balanced perspective on career advancement impressed Morrison with its maturity and realistic assessment of various options. As their conversation continued, Morrison found himself preparing to address something he had been thinking about for months but had never directly discussed with Chen. Her exceptional performance and growing reputation had put her in a position where she could serve as a role model and mentor for other women pursuing careers in special operations. Morrison believed that she had a responsibility to help others follow the path she had pioneered. Chen's response to this suggestion revealed the depth of her character and her understanding of her broader impact on the military community. She spoke about the challenges she had faced as a woman in a male-dominated field and the importance of creating opportunities for others who shared similar aspirations. Her willingness to take on mentoring responsibilities, despite the additional demands on her time and energy, demonstrated her commitment to service that extended beyond her immediate operational duties. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Morrison asked Chen about her personal goals and aspirations outside of her military career. He had always been impressed by her dedication to service, but he also recognized the importance of maintaining perspective and planning for life beyond special operations. Chen's thoughtful response revealed someone who had given serious consideration to her long-term future while remaining fully committed to her current responsibilities. Chen spoke about her desire to eventually pursue advanced education, possibly in international relations or security studies, and her interest in contributing to policy development related to counterterrorism and special operations. She also expressed interest in writing about her experiences, not for personal recognition, but to help others understand the realities of special operations and the capabilities of military personnel who might not fit traditional stereotypes. Morrison found himself reflecting on the broader implications of Chen's success for the military and society as a whole. Her achievements had demonstrated that exceptional performance was possible, regardless of gender, when individuals were given equal opportunities and proper support. Her example had already influenced policy changes and had helped expand opportunities for other qualified personnel. As their conversation neared its conclusion, Morrison realized that he needed to share something with Chen that he had never discussed with any of his other personnel. Throughout his career, he had worked with many exceptional soldiers, but Chen's combination of technical competence, moral integrity, and personal courage had earned his respect in a way that went beyond simple professional appreciation. Morrison told Chen about the tattoo on his forearm that few people had ever seen. It was a simple design that honored the memory of soldiers who had made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their country. Each element of the tattoo represented someone he had served with who had died in combat, and the design served as a constant reminder of the responsibility he felt to honor their memory through his continued service. Chen listened quietly as Morrison explained the meaning of the tattoo and why he had chosen to share this personal information with her. He told her that her service had embodied the same values and dedication that had motivated the soldiers memorialized in his tattoo. Her willingness to risk her life for others, her commitment to excellence in service, and her moral courage in difficult situations had earned his deepest respect. Morrison then asked Chen if he could see her own tattoo, something he had glimpsed briefly during training exercises but had never examined closely. Chen rolled up her sleeve to reveal an intricate design that incorporated symbols representing her family's journey from Vietnam to America, her own military service, and her commitment to protecting others. The artwork was beautiful, but Morrison was more interested in the story it told. Chen explained each element of the tattoo and its personal significance. The design honored her parents' courage in leaving everything behind to build a better life for their children, celebrated her own journey from immigrant daughter to elite military operator, and symbolized her commitment to using her abilities in service of others. The tattoo was intensely personal, but also reflected values that resonated deeply with Morrison's own understanding of military service. As Morrison examined the intricate details of Chen's tattoo, he found himself overwhelmed by a single emotion. This woman had proven herself in every way possible, had exceeded every expectation, and had earned the respect of everyone who had worked with her. Her story was one of courage, determination, and exceptional achievement. But it was also something more profound. Looking at the tattoo that represented Chen's journey and values, Morrison felt compelled to express what he had been thinking throughout their conversation, but had struggled to articulate. In that moment, Faced with the evidence of everything she had accomplished and everything she represented, only one word seemed adequate to capture his feelings. Respect, Morrison said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of genuine admiration earned through years of exceptional service and personal courage.